June 1944. Reports flow into German headquarters. Panthers and Tigers are destroying American tanks at favourable ratios. The M4 Sherman burns easily. German gunnery is proving superior. Tactical victories accumulate. The front doesn't stabilise. Commanders request reinforcements. They need time to reorganise after success. Time never comes. The pressure continues. American forces advance despite losses that should have stopped them. By autumn, Heinz Guderian faces numbers that don't make sense. His staff confirms German forces are winning engagements. American tank losses exceed German losses, and yet German units retreat. This was the moment Heinz Guderian realised the war he designed could no longer be won the way he imagined. Heinz Guderian built modern armoured warfare on a principle: speed decides wars. His career began in the aftermath of World War I, studying why Germany lost. The answer seemed clear: static fronts consumed armies, trenches turned battles into mathematics of attrition. Victory required breaking the enemy's ability to resist before resources mattered. Guderian synthesized this understanding into doctrine. Armour concentrates at weak points. Breakthrough forces penetrate deep. Encirclements collapse enemy formations before they stabilize. The goal isn't destruction, it's paralysis. An enemy unable to coordinate cannot fight effectively, regardless of reserves. Speed creates this paralysis. Maneuver v. Warfare assumes certain mechanics. When you destroy an enemy tank battalion, the enemy loses local armour superiority. When you shatter a defensive line, the enemy must withdraw to establish a new one. These withdrawals create windows. Windows allow deeper penetration. Deeper penetration threatens supply lines. Threatened supply lines force larger withdrawals. Each successful engagement compounds into operational advantage. This logic dominated German armoured planning through 1941. Poland fell in weeks. France collapsed in 6 weeks. Soviet forces suffered catastrophic encirclements. The doctrine worked because it was designed around a fundamental assumption. Destroying enemy forces creates time and space, time to reorganize, space to maneuver. Both allow initiative. Initiative wins wars before production matters. Guderian's forces demonstrated this repeatedly. At Sedan in 1940, German armour broke through weak French defences, then drove deep into France before Allied forces could respond. The speed of advance prevented establishment of new defensive lines. French and British commanders lost contact with forward units. Confusion multiplied faster than reserves could deploy. The campaign succeeded because destroyed French tank battalions couldn't be immediately replaced. Each engagement removed forces from the board. Removal created gaps. Gaps enabled exploitation. German doctrine assumed this pattern would continue. It assumed that when you destroy enemy armour, you reduce enemy capability. That reduction gives you breathing room. Breathing room allows you to press advantage before the enemy recovers. The enemy must recover from losses before mounting effective resistance. This assumption worked when campaigns concluded in weeks. Guderian knew Germany couldn't win extended attrition. German industry couldn't match Soviet or American production indefinitely. But German doctrine said it wouldn't need to. Wars ended through maneuver, not manufacturing. Destroy enemy forces faster than they reorganize. Accept tactical losses if they create operational breakthroughs. Breakthroughs collapse enemy cohesion. Collapse cohesion ends wars before industry matters. The armour war Guderian envisioned was decisive, not sustained. By 1943, that vision faced challenges. The Eastern Front didn't collapse after initial victories. Soviet forces retreated, then reconstituted. But Guderian still believed in the framework. Blitzkrieg hadn't failed, it had been misapplied. Given proper concentration of forces and clear operational objectives, armour could still achieve decisive results. This confidence shaped how German command viewed the coming invasion of France. Allied forces would land, German armour would contain the landing, then counterattack. Counterattacks would destroy beachhead formations. Destroyed formations would prevent Allied build-up. This logic had worked before. Guderian expected it to work again. The M4 Sherman first appeared in North Africa in 1942. German intelligence compiled assessments quickly. Armour: 75 to 80 mm on the frontal hull, inadequate against high-velocity guns. Main armament: 75 mm gun, inferior to German 88 mm and 75 mm long-barreled weapons. Mobility: Good cross-country performance, reliable mechanical systems, overall assessment, an adequate medium tank, vulnerable to German armor and anti-tank weapons, not a technical threat to German superiority in armored combat. Reports from Tunisia confirmed this view. Panthers and Tigers destroyed Shermans at ranges where Shermans could not effectively return fire. Kill ratios favored German forces in nearly every engagement. American crews showed determination but faced technical disadvantage. German command noted these reports with satisfaction. The Normandy invasion brought Shermans in larger numbers. German forces prepared to exploit their technical edge. Armor would wait for American forces to push inland from the beaches, then strike at exposed formations. American inexperience would compound their technical disadvantage. The combination would prove decisive. June 1944. Engagement reports validated German expectations. A Panther. Company engaged American armor near Villers-Bocage. Panthers destroyed multiple Shermans with minimal losses. The company withdrew to prepared positions, having successfully disrupted American advance. American forces resumed advancing the next day. Near Caen, Tiger tanks engaged American armor at extended range. High-velocity 88mm guns destroyed Shermans before American guns could respond effectively. The engagement was tactically successful. American forces probed different sectors the following day. Pattern established. German armor achieved local superiority in engagement after engagement. Kill ratios consistently favored German forces. American tank losses mounted. American advance continued. This puzzled junior officers initially. Battlefield success should translate to operational success. When you destroy enemy tanks, you reduce enemy armor strength. Reduced strength should force enemy pause to rebuild capability. The pause gives defenders time to strengthen positions. No pause came. Replacement Shermans appeared within days, sometimes within hours. Units that suffered heavy tank losses in morning engagements appeared at full strength the next day. German forces destroyed tanks in Normandy at rates that should have depleted American armor reserves. American armor reserves appeared inexhaustible. Intelligence officers compiled reports with growing confusion. Numbers didn't align with campaign expectations. Standard military logic suggested that an enemy losing tanks at 3-to-1 ratios would suffer declining combat capability. Combat capability declined in individual units, but overall American armor strength remained constant. Destroyed tanks disappeared. New tanks appeared. The cycle continued. Normandy fighting intensified through July. German armor continued achieving tactical victories. Panthers consistently outfought Shermans in direct combat. Tigers dominated engagement ranges. German gunnery training proved superior to American training in new units. None of this slowed American operations. American forces adapted tactics to minimize direct engagement with German heavy armor. Infantry armor coordination improved. Artillery support increased. American forces accepted tank losses as necessary cost of maintaining pressure. Pressure never eased. By late July, German situation reports reflected new language. Reports still noted tactical successes. Kill ratios still favored German forces, but reports now included phrases like enemy armor density remains high despite losses, and American forces maintain operational tempo. Command began asking different questions. Why weren't tactical victories creating operational breathing room? Why were American forces maintaining pressure despite losing more tanks? Why did destroyed formations reconstitute so quickly? The answer appeared in intelligence summaries about American production capacity. Numbers seemed impossible at first. American factories produced thousands of Shermans monthly. Entire divisions could be re-equipped in weeks. The replacement pipeline operated faster than German forces could destroy tanks. Tactical success became mathematically irrelevant. August 1944. A Panzer battalion commander files a report that gets forwarded up the command chain. His unit engaged American armor 3 times in 4 days. His Panthers destroyed over 20 Shermans. His battalion lost 2 tanks. By traditional calculation, this represents overwhelming tactical success. The American advance in his sector accelerated. The report doesn't ask for reinforcements. It asks a different question. What happens when destroying enemy tanks no longer changes anything? This question reaches desks where doctrine is written. German armoured doctrine assumes certain mechanics. You mass armour at decisive points. You achieve local superiority. You destroy enemy forces. Destroyed forces create gaps in enemy lines. Gaps enable breakthrough. Breakthrough leads to encirclement. Encirclement destroys enemy operational cohesion. Each step follows logically from the previous step. The logic breaks when destroyed forces immediately reconstitute. The Falaise Pocket demonstrates this in August. German forces fight to escape Allied encirclement. The battle is tactically savage. German armour destroys numerous Shermans in desperate fighting. German units take heavy losses, but significant forces escape the pocket. Traditional military analysis would suggest both sides need time to recover. German forces need reorganisation after retreat. Allied forces need to repair damage from costly fighting. An operational pause should follow. Allied armour appears on German retreat routes the next day. Full-strength units. Fresh Shermans. The pressure continues without interruption. This violates everything German doctrine assumes about tempo. Tempo requires sustainment. Attacking forces should pause after costly engagements. Pause allows reorganisation, resupply, integration of replacements. No army maintains continuous offensive pressure without degradation. American forces maintain continuous offensive pressure. German intelligence attempts to rationalise this. Perhaps American losses aren't as severe as reported. Field reports might exaggerate kills. Perhaps American armoured formations are weaker than assessed, requiring fewer replacements to maintain strength. Investigation disproves these theories. American tank losses are real. Battlefield recovery teams confirm German kill counts. American armoured divisions do maintain standard organisational strength. The numbers are accurate. The implication is clear. American production replaces losses faster than German forces inflict them. This breaks warfare mathematics that Guderian's doctrine depends on. Wargaming at staff level always assumed attrition favours the defender. Attacking forces suffer higher casualties. Defenders in prepared positions destroy more enemy equipment than they lose. This mathematics makes sustained offensive operations costly. Eventually attackers must pause to rebuild strength. American forces suffer higher casualties. They lose more tanks. They press attacks against prepared positions. Their offensive never pauses. The mathematics that should make this impossible are simply ignored by American industrial capacity. September 1944. German forces retreat across France. American armour pursues despite continuous combat. German units fight effective rearguard actions. Each day brings multiple engagements. German forces destroy Shermans in nearly every engagement. It doesn't matter. New Shermans replace losses overnight. American pressure remains constant. German retreats accelerate because there's no point holding positions that cost time without stopping the enemy. Destroyed American tanks don't slow American advances. Time spent destroying tanks is time not spent withdrawing to better positions. Tactical victory becomes tactical liability. A German division holds a river crossing. American forces attempt to cross. German armour destroys the first wave of Shermans. The engagement is successful. 20 American tanks destroyed for 3 German losses. American forces renew the attack 6 hours later with fresh armour. German division exhausts ammunition in the second engagement. Forces withdraw overnight. American forces cross the river unopposed at dawn. The defensive success produced no defensive benefit. This pattern repeats across the front. German units achieve favourable kill ratios in morning engagements. American forces attack again in afternoon with replaced losses. German forces expend ammunition and fuel, achieving tactical success. Success doesn't prevent American advance. It only consumes German resources faster. German commanders begin requesting permission to withdraw before engagement. This request represents doctrinal collapse. German armour's doctrine says you hold where you can destroy enemy armour effectively. You trade space for enemy casualties only when casualty exchange is unfavourable. But effective casualty exchange isn't slowing the enemy. The doctrine offers no guidance for this situation. October 1944. German armour reaches the German border in retreat. Officers expected this frontier to allow consolidation. Shortened supply lines, prepared defensive positions, home terrain advantage. These factors should multiply defensive effectiveness. American armour pressure doesn't decrease. German forces still win tactical engagements. Panthers still destroy Shermans effectively. Tiger battalions still dominate engagement ranges. German gunnery still proves superior. Every advantage Guderian designed for remains operational. None of these advantages produce operational effect. The psychological impact on German command becomes visible in situation reports. Language changes from confident analysis to fatalistic observation. Reports describe events without suggesting solutions. Enemy armor continues advance despite losses appears repeatedly. The phrasing is passive, observational. It describes a phenomenon beyond German control. This is new language for German armor command. Earlier in the war, situation reports identified problems and proposed solutions. Weak defensive sectors needed reinforcement. Broken lines needed counterattacks. Every problem had an armor solution because armor provided shock and mobility that solved operational problems. Now problems exist without armor solutions. You can't counterattack effectively when counterattacks consume irreplaceable German tanks, while American losses are replaced immediately. You can't hold the defensive positions when holding requires destroying more American tanks than American factories produce. You can't trade space for time when the enemy maintains tempo regardless of losses. German armor doctrine assumes you can do all these things. Reality says you cannot. The dread specific this creates is not the dread of losing battles. German forces still win many tactical engagements. It's the dread of winning meaninglessly, of achieving battlefield success that changes nothing, of mastering every technical and tactical detail while losing strategically. It's the dread of playing a game whose rules changed without announcement. German doctrine said, destroy enemy armor and you gain advantage. American production said destroyed armor doesn't matter. November 1944, German Hart situation conferences include discussion of Sherman replacement rates. Officers cite specific production numbers. American factories produce 1,500 to 2,000 Shermans monthly. Total production exceeds 40,000 units. Lost tanks are replaced from reserve stocks in days. These aren't combat reports. They're industrial briefings. This represents a conceptual shift. German command is analyzing American factory output the way they previously analyzed Soviet troop movements. Production capacity has become an operational factor more important than battlefield results. This is an admission that battlefield results don't determine outcomes anymore. Heinz Guderian returns to high command in July 1944. Hitler appoints him chief of the general staff after the previous chief is implicated in an assassination plot. Guderian's first task: assess the military situation honestly. The assessment changes him. Guderian built his career on specific premises. Armor provides decisive shock. Mobility creates opportunity. Well-executed operations defeat larger but slower enemies. These premises worked in Poland, France, early Soviet campaigns. They stopped working, but Guderian believed they stopped working because German command misapplied them. Now Guderian confronts evidence they stopped working because underlying conditions changed. Wargaming sessions in August reveal the problem clearly. Staff officers present defensive scenarios. German armor destroys American tanks at 3-to-1 ratios. American forces advance anyway. Officers adjust ratios to 5-to-1. American forces still advance. The mathematical models show that even at kill ratios that exceed realistic battlefield performance, German attrition cannot exceed American replacement. Guderian studies American industrial capacity reports. The numbers are precise. American production of medium tanks exceeds German production of all tank types combined. The American replacement pipeline operates continuously. American armor units maintain standard strength despite losses that should devastate organizational capability. This is not a battlefield problem, this is a system problem. Battlefield problems have battlefield solutions. You adjust tactics, you improve training, you concentrate forces at decisive points. Guderian revolutionized armored warfare by solving battlefield problems through doctrine and operational art. Systems problems do not have battlefield solutions. Germany produces roughly 25,000 tanks total during the entire war. America produces 50,000 Shermans alone, plus thousands of other armored vehicles. German production peaks around 1,500 tanks monthly in 1944. American production averages 2,000 Shermans monthly just in M4 variants. The gap is absolute. Guderian realizes his doctrine contains a hidden assumption. The assumption is that campaigns conclude before industrial disparities matter. Blitzkrieg works because it achieves decision in weeks or months. 6-week campaigns do not allow the enemy's industrial capacity to deploy. Fast operational tempo prevents the enemy from leveraging a production advantage. The assumption requires winning quickly. Germany is not winning quickly. The Eastern Front has been active for 3 years. The Western Front is now open. Italy is contested. Every front requires tanks. Losses accumulate faster than German production replaces them, while American and Soviet production accelerates. Time is now the enemy. Guderian's doctrine has no answer for time as the enemy. Maneuver warfare assumes you create time through operational success. You break enemy cohesion, then exploit the time the enemy needs to restore it. This generates windows of opportunity. American industrial capacity eliminates those windows. Enemy cohesion does not break when losses are replaced immediately. Operational success does not create exploitable time when the enemy maintains tempo despite casualties. The entire framework collapses. December 1944. Guderian reviews plans for the Ardennes offensive. The operation is risky. It requires concentrating armour that is needed everywhere. Success requires achieving breakthrough against forces that will be replaced even if destroyed. Guderian sees the futility immediately. Even if German armour achieves tactical breakthrough, the American response will be overwhelming. German forces might destroy hundreds of Shermans. Thousands more exist in reserve. German losses in the offensive will be irreplaceable. American losses will be replaced by spring. The operation trades irreplaceable German strength for temporary gains against replaceable American strength. This is backwards from how armour warfare is supposed to work. Guderian's career was built on making German strengths, superior training, tactical doctrine, operational art defeat enemy material advantages. Now, material advantages are so overwhelming that tactical and operational superiority become irrelevant. You can be better trained, you can have better doctrine, you can execute operations more skillfully. None of it matters when the enemy produces equipment faster than you destroy it. This is an admission that genius cannot overcome systems. Guderian spent his career believing professional military excellence determines outcomes. Superior planning, superior execution, superior doctrine, these things win wars. The best-led forces defeat larger but poorly led forces. History provided examples, Prussia defeating Austria and France in the 1860s and the 1870s despite numerical disadvantages. American industrial capacity makes those examples obsolete. It's not that American forces are poorly led. American operational art improves throughout 1944, but even mediocre American leadership would eventually win when backed by production that replaces every loss. Excellence and mediocrity both succeed when supported by unlimited material. This invalidates the framework of professional military excellence. Guderian spent his life mastering, January 1945. Guderian argues for withdrawal to defensible lines in the east. Hitler refuses. The argument reveals how completely Guderian's thinking has changed. He's no longer proposing counterattacks. He's no longer suggesting concentration of armour for breakthrough operations. He's proposing retreat to minimize losses. This is Guderian admitting his life's work is obsolete in current conditions. Maneuver warfare requires resources to maneuver with. Germany's resources are depleting. Every engagement trades German losses that won't be replaced for Allied losses that will. The mathematics compound daily. Given infinite time, German forces lose through attrition, even while winning tactical engagements. Time is no longer on Germany's side. Time now favours the enemy. Guderian revolutionized warfare by making time favor the attacker. Speed and shock created time advantage. Defenders needed time to establish positions. Attackers who moved faster than defenders could prepare one decisively. Now defenders move faster than attackers can deplete them. The Sherman isn't technically superior to German tanks. It's not tactically revolutionary. It doesn't represent breakthrough in armoured doctrine. What the Sherman represents is industrial warfare operating at scale, where battlefield outcomes become secondary to production capacity. This is warfare. Guderian never prepared for because his entire career was spent avoiding it. Spring 2045. German armoured forces barely resemble the formations that conquered Poland and France. The distinction is more than numerical, it's conceptual. German armour in 1940 was an offensive weapon. It existed to break through, exploit, encircle. Defensive fighting was a temporary condition. accepted only to create conditions for renewed offensive. German armour in 1945 is permanently defensive. Not because German commanders prefer defence, because offence requires resources to sustain losses. German armour can't sustain offensive losses when those losses aren't replaced. This changes what armour means. Guderian designed armour for mobility and shock. Tanks concentrate at weak points, break through, then exploit deep into enemy rear. This requires accepting casualties because operational gains from successful breakthrough exceed tactical losses. That calculation assumed losses could be replaced between campaigns. 6-week campaigns meant months to rebuild before the next operation. Losses from the France campaign were replaced before the Soviet campaign. Losses from early Soviet operations were replaced before next summer's offensive. Continuous operations eliminate replacement windows. The Eastern and Western fronts operate simultaneously. There's no pause for rebuilding. Units that suffer losses in a morning engagement need those losses replaced for afternoon defensive positions. Replacement doesn't happen. Units fight at reduced strength continuously. Reduced strength means reduced capability. Reduced capability means defensive options shrink. Armoured warfare becomes armour management. German commanders calculate in February which positions can be defended without armour support. Infantry and anti-tank guns hold sectors where terrain favours defence. Armour concentrates at sectors where enemy breakthrough threatens operational collapse. This isn't seeking decisive engagement. This is minimising disaster. The calculation reveals how thoroughly doctrine inverted. Guderian's armour's doctrine said, mass at decisive points to create breakthrough. Current German practice says, mass at threatened points to prevent breakthrough. Same tactical action, concentration of armour, but opposite operational intent. Defensive concentration is admission. There's no offensive capability remaining. American and Soviet forces maintain offensive pressure continuously. This pressure forces German forces to respond constantly. Response consumes fuel and ammunition. Every engagement depletes German logistics. Those logistics can't be replenished at the rate combat depletes them. German armour increasingly operates under movement restrictions to conserve fuel. Units receive instructions to avoid combat unless the enemy threatens breakthrough. Avoiding combat preserves resources, but cedes initiative completely. Initiative was Guderian's core principle. Seize initiative through aggressive action. Force the enemy to respond to your operations. Make the enemy fight your battle on your terms. This works when you can sustain operations long enough to exploit enemy responses. German forces can't sustain operations anymore. Tiger and Panther battalions receive orders to remain in position until enemy armour concentration requires engagement. This conserves fuel. It also abandons every principle of armoured warfare. Static tanks become targets. Static deployment eliminates a mobility advantage. Static operations let the enemy dictate engagement timing. Everything Guderian revolutionized warfare to avoid, German armour now does by necessity. March 1945. Allied forces cross the Rhine. German armour attempts counterattacks. The counterattacks are limited. Small unit actions with limited objectives. Destroy the bridgehead, delay the enemy advance, buy time for retreat. These aren't operations designed for victory. They're operations designed to slow defeat. The distinction is total. Victory-oriented operations accept tactical risk for operational gain. You risk units in breakthrough attempts because successful breakthrough changes the strategic situation. Defeat-oriented operations minimize losses while accepting inevitable retreat. You don't risk units because losses can't be replaced and replacement won't change the ultimate outcome. German armour transitions completely to defeat-oriented operations by late March. Individual units still fight effectively. German gunnery still proves superior. Panthers still destroy Shermans at favourable ratios when combat occurs. Tactical competence remains high. Tactical competence changes nothing about strategic trajectory. American Shermans advance across Germany. German armour contests the advance where possible. Contesting slows American forces occasionally. Occasionally becomes rarely. Rarely becomes never. By April, American armour advances through sectors that would have been strongly defended months earlier. Defence requires resources Germany no longer has. The Eastern Front shows an even starker collapse. Soviet armour masses in ways that would have been an opportunity for German counterattack in 1943. Concentrated enemy armour was an invitation for German operational art. Catch, enemy armour extended. strike flanks, create encirclement, destroy enemy operational capability. These opportunities still appear. German forces cannot exploit them. Exploitation requires fuel for maneuver. It requires ammunition for extended combat. It requires replacement forces to hold ground gained. Germany has none of these in required quantities. Opportunities pass unexploited because resources do not exist to exploit them. This is the ultimate inversion of Guderian's doctrine. Warfare he designed was about creating and exploiting opportunities. Warfare Germany now fights is about watching opportunities pass while unable to act. April is 1945. Some German armor units retain capability for local operations, but local capability does not translate to operational capability. You can defend a town, you cannot defend a region. You can delay an advance, you cannot stop it. German situation reports stop proposing operations. They report enemy movements. They note German positions. They do not suggest how German positions might contest enemy movements, because everyone understands contending is not possible anymore. The Sherman in these final weeks is less a tank than inevitability made metal. It appears wherever American forces advance, German forces destroy individual Shermans. More Shermans arrive. The cycle continues until German forces withdraw or are overrun. This cycle is what Sherman represented all along. Not a superior tank, not a revolutionary weapon, just an inevitable presence backed by a production that never stops. The Sherman's legacy isn't its technical specifications, it's what the Sherman revealed about industrial warfare. Guderian revolutionized military theory by proving mobility and shock could defeat larger but slower forces. His successes in Poland and France demonstrated that operational art could overcome material disadvantage. Professional excellence, superior training, superior doctrine, superior execution, these determined outcomes. The Sherman demonstrated the opposite principle. Sufficient material advantage eventually overwhelms operational excellence. This wasn't immediate. German forces won tactical engagements against Shermans throughout the war. Superior German tanks and gunnery produced favourable kill ratios in most battles. Tactical excellence remained meaningful at the tactical level. Tactical excellence became meaningless at the operational level, when losses were replaced faster than they could be inflicted. This is a strategic insight that reshapes how we understand warfare. Wars aren't determined solely by battlefield performance. They're determined by the relationship between battlefield consumption and industrial production. When production exceeds consumption, tactical outcomes become secondary factors. The Sherman embodied this principle completely. It wasn't designed to win tank duels, it was designed to be produced in quantities that made tank duels irrelevant. American doctrine accepted Sherman losses as an operational cost. The cost was sustainable because production exceeded consumption with margin to spare. German doctrine had no framework for this kind of warfare. Maneuver. Warfare assumes you end campaigns before industrial capacity depletes. You win fast, you achieve decision through operational art before attrition matters. German military education taught this approach. German military history validated it. Prussian and German forces historically defeated larger enemies through superior execution. Superior execution failed when enemy industrial capacity eliminated the time windows execution created. This has implications beyond World War II. Modern warfare increasingly emphasizes precision systems, advanced platforms, sophisticated weapons. These systems excel at tactical tasks. They destroy targets efficiently. They minimize friendly casualties. They demonstrate technical superiority. They also require production time measured in years. Losses can't be replaced quickly. Sophisticated systems are individually capable but collectively scarce. The Sherman principle suggests a question. What happens when sophisticated but scarce systems face less capable but abundant alternatives? History gives one answer. Tactical superiority without industrial depth eventually loses to industrial capacity that sustains operations regardless of tactical losses. The better system wins battles. The more numerous system wins wars. This doesn't mean technical sophistication is worthless. German Tigers and Panthers were superior tanks. That superiority mattered in individual engagements. It didn't matter strategically because numerical advantage overcame technical advantage over time. The lesson isn't simple systems always win. The lesson is sustainable systems eventually win. Sherman wasn't a simple tank. It was a sustainable tank. Sustainable because American industry could produce it faster than German forces could destroy it. Sustainability created inevitability. Inevitability made tactical victories meaningless. Guderian understood this by 1945. His memoir written after the war shows recognition that material factors ultimately constrained operational art. Professional excellence still mattered, but it mattered within boundaries material reality established. No amount of operational brilliance overcame industrial disadvantage once disadvantage reached certain scale. This recognition was professionally devastating for Guderian. His career proved operational art could overcome obstacles. He revolutionized warfare by showing mobility and shock created opportunities that slower forces couldn't prevent. These achievements were real. They changed military history permanently. They also proved insufficient against an enemy who could replace losses indefinitely. The Sherman validated a different military philosophy. The American approach to warfare emphasized industrial mobilization. American doctrine accepted that individual platforms might be inferior. What mattered was producing enough platforms to sustain operations regardless of losses. Sufficient quantity created its own quality through operational pressure that never eased. This philosophy seemed primitive to German professional military observers. It lacked the elegance of maneuver warfare. It accepted casualties that superior operational art would avoid. It relied on material rather than genius. It won, not because American commanders were more capable, not because American tactics were superior, because American industrial capacity made their capabilities and tactics sufficient. When sufficient capability is backed by the unlimited replacement, sufficiency becomes overwhelming over time. The Sherman proved that the most dangerous weapon in war isn't the one that wins battles, it's the one that makes victory irrelevant. German forces won battles against Shermans throughout the war. Those victories didn't slow the American advance, didn't reduce American operational tempo, and didn't prevent American strategic success. Victory became experience without consequence, achievement without effect. This is what inevitability feels like. You perform excellently, you achieve objectives. Nothing changes because the enemy system operates beyond the scale where your achievements matter. Guderian realized this too late to matter. The war he designed, fast, decisive, resolved through operational brilliance, had already transformed into a different war, a war of systems and sustainability, a war where genius mattered less than capacity, a war where the Sherman represented not a technological breakthrough but industrial reality. The tank he dismissed as inferior proved more historically significant than the tanks he considered superior, not because the Sherman was a better tank, but because the Sherman existed in quantities that made better meaningless. This remains a relevant lesson. Future warfare will feature sophisticated systems, AI-enabled platforms, precision weapons, hypersonic missiles. Each system will have advocates arguing tactical superiority determines outcomes. The Sherman suggests a different question. Can those systems be produced fast enough to sustain operations after losses begin? Sophistication without sustainability is vulnerability. No matter how capable individual platforms are, they're vulnerable if losses can't be replaced. The more sophisticated the system, the longer replacement takes. The longer replacement takes, the more vulnerable forces become to numerically superior but simpler alternatives. This is an uncomfortable conclusion for military professionals. It suggests operational excellence might be insufficient, technical superiority might not matter, professional mastery might lose to industrial capacity, but this conclusion was validated in World War II. German operational excellence was real. German technical superiority in armour was real. Both proved insufficient against Allied industrial capacity operating at a scale where German achievements couldn't affect the outcome. The Sherman didn't win through superiority, it won through inevitability, and inevitability, once established, proves more decisive than excellence.